Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for something very exciting that we've been cooking up with the retail images team is to talk about the future of food. A lot of people think the future of food is written in boardrooms or comes, from top down, but it's actually being written. It's being written from the ground up. But we do have a lot of different stakeholders, a lot of different perspectives that we have to go through to be able to fuel it. And, I'll give you maybe each a minute to give an introduction about yourselves, your background, so that the audience here can understand a bit better when we get to questions, what perspective you will be sharing as we delve deeper into this topic. Umesh?
Hi everyone, myself Umesh Chopra. I represent Sheraa Corp. We are a grocery retailer in hyper, super, mini e-commerce kind of a domain. We are a 50-year young organization. Why I call ourselves young is that we have a lot of data, a lot of experience with communities, but what we are trying to do is to innovate and do stuff which is better for the customers, using data, using all kind of tools we have. And that is the core of our business. We call ourselves as an experienced, let's say, a grocery therapist, because we want to know the needs of a customer even before they think about those things. So happy to be in this panel. I'm the only retailer in this panel, so I get some time to introduce myself.
Thank you. I am Salvatore. I was born in FMCG. I spent 25 years in senior positions with some multinationals. I'm one of the founding fathers, for those who know, of the Benkiser company that I joined when it was a privately owned group. In 97, we made it public. In 99, we made probably the most successful of the mergers in FMCG ever, probably the only one. That was creating the powerhouse that is called Reckitt now, Reckitt and Benkiser and then Reckitt. With them, I was running some of the largest businesses. I was running Europe. I was running a good part of the developing markets. In 2013, I decided to make a change, to move from the role of being an executive to the role of being a shareholder, the other side of the fence. And I launched my own company, running actually a series of investments in high growth countries, and this is one of them, like all Africa and the whole Middle East, in FMCG and consumer healthcare. So I started buying companies, buying shareholding, almost in all cases it is majority or it is a controlling stake. I mentioned one company that probably is familiar with all of you. That is, it is called Kcal Group. We have brands like the same Kcal, a few Aliph, Spring, and few others. Clearly, this is an example probably of how to grow a startup in the UAE, in this environment, how to make it different and successful. So I will just pass then to.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. Karolos. I represent the Emirates Growth Fund. The Emirates Growth Fund is a concept that initially was outlined by the leadership of the Emirates Development Bank about 3 years ago, when we saw something in the market. We saw a trend in the market which was actually indicating that while the UAE is a very mature venture capital ecosystem with a number of funds active in the early stages, a very mature sovereign wealth fund ecosystem as well, with at least one sovereign wealth fund per emirate, and quite mature private equity market. There's a set of SMEs out there that remain underserved by traditional investors. And this is the structure of the UAE economy, such that there are so many medium-sized companies, the so-called brick and mortar companies of the economy, that are a bit too mature for a venture capital investor, not big enough for a private equity investor, so they fall through the cracks, and we call them the missing middle. So the leadership of the Emirates Development Bank came up with this concept of the EGF, which is capturing this missing middle, served by a new asset class, which is called growth capital. And it's basically a bridge that serves and supports all these SMEs that struggle to raise funding to get to the next stage of growth. It's a segment which is, although many of these SMEs that in which we are looking may not be that interesting for traditional investors, their impact and GDP multipliers are much bigger than the earlier stages because of the impact they have in the economy. So the mandate of the EGF is to deploy this capital to support these companies get to the next stage. These companies are promising, are sustainable, they can be the next national champions of the country. And the way we're doing it in a way that is non-traditional. We deploy long-term capital without pressure from LPs to return money and quickly or push the companies to grow fast. We care about long-term sustainability, and we want to make sure these companies will be around and strong in 10, 15 years from now, rather than returning money to our investors in 2 or 3 years. It's a new proposition. EGF is positioned as the flagship growth capital platform of the UAE. It has been in operationalization over the last 1 year, but officially announced about a month ago by His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al Jaber, who is the Minister of Industry and Advanced Technology, and in his capacity as the Chairman of the Emirates Development Bank. This is one of the very important tools that are serving this mandate of long-term sustainability, as well as the development of national priority sectors such as food. And that's why the reason why I'm here, and very happy to looking forward to the discussion with the fellow panelists. Thanks.
Thank you, Carlos. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aryan Raj. I'm part of the investment team at Aliph Capital. Before this, I used to work in banking, where I covered consumer sector, part of which was covering, FMCG sub-segments. At Aliph, we are a first-generation fund investing in mid-market businesses across GCC, sector agnostic. But coincidentally, first, two of our investments so far out of our maiden fund have been in businesses that have strong element of retail. Which is why throughout our value creation roadmap, I have experienced firsthand how challenging it can be catering to a 90% expat population who's coming with, having experienced global brands in their respective countries, and that has, been quite interesting. So I'm really glad to be here to share some of that experience and learn from my fellow panelists.
Good afternoon. I'm Abeer AlAmeeri, and I'm Director of Ecosystem Development at Sheraa, the Sharjah Entrepreneurship Center. At Sheraa, we support founders, aspiring founders, and startups across all stages of their journey. And I specifically look after partnerships that could support the building of the ecosystem in Sharjah, programs that founders can participate in, and as well as, in addition to that, is community engagement. In addition to my role at Sheraa, I'm also the founder of 2 social enterprises that are both very much deeply rooted in community engagement. So very much looking forward to our discussion today.
So Abeer, we'll start today. I think between everyone on the panel, you can cover the full value chain of investment and retail. You can launch a brand, get the funding, get on the shelf, get the ecosystem support, grow, go to the the middle, go to the private equity, and scale globally, and we're done. Right? So I think that's the beauty of this diverse panel now. I think, Abeer, UAE is a competitive market. We're going to take different points of view. From your point of view on looking at community engagement, what are your top recommendations for founders of different size companies or senior executives when tackling the UAE market and looking at future trends? Consumers are very convenience-led. They want best experiences and they want the best prices. How do you suggest for founders and senior executives from a community point of view to tackle that?
Thank you for the question. I think first and foremost is lead with purpose. We're seeing now more than ever that consumers are drawn to brands that are mission-driven. So if this is something that your brand is about, then you should be screaming it out at the top of your lungs at every opportunity that you have. Second, I would say is anywhere that your audience is, you need to be there. Our economy is very much driven, as you mentioned, by convenience. So you need to be online, you need to be on the shelves, and you need to be collaborating with other brands that share similar values and similar ethos to create shared experiences for your audience. And don't be afraid to cross-pollinate with the brands that you're working with. And I think finally, something that we've been seeing grow over the years is people really want to see the face behind the brand. One example that comes to mind is Rashi Chaudhry, who's behind Play. They have the clean go-to chocolates that you could find almost everywhere. Also a Homegrown Ventures portfolio and part of the Sheraa community. So Rashi herself is a nutritionist, and by putting herself as the face of the brand, she's able to draw in individuals that are curious about how the products are being built, what's going into it, what's the person like behind this product. So if you are not afraid of being visible and it's something you're interested in exploring, then I would definitely recommend that as well.
Thank you, Abeer. Aryan, what's your take on this?
Thanks, Nader. For me, I mean, if I speak from an investor's lens, the top, attributes that will sort of make or break a brand. First is a very clear and meaningful value proposition. Second would be effective, communication, and third is a strong distribution. And again, there's an element of investors and returns involved there. But double-clicking on all three of these, I would say when I talk about value proposition, brands are trying to differentiate themselves across different vectors, and this could be in terms of ingredients, format of delivery, convenience. Cultural relevance, etc. So that value proposition needs to be very, very distinct and effective, meaningful. Then that value proposition needs to be communicated very, very effectively, and that is more of a 360 effort, whether it is through branding, advertisement, packaging, community engagement, social media strategy, etc. And the final element, I would say, to me that matters the most is strong distribution, whether company's strategy is remaining purely online or offline or a combination of both. And of course, on top of that, of course, you need a good execution team, someone who has a very clear vision, is realistic about what they're trying to do, and their strategy aligns with that. So those will be, the top differentiating factors.
Thank you. Karolos?
Thanks very much. So again, from an investor lens and probably a growth investor like EGF, who's looking for long-term sustainability, and when it comes to the retail sector in the UAE and especially premium brands, there is one simple trend we have observed that we're trying to change as an investor. And this is a tendency, not even tendency, probably an obsession of founders to go for fast breakneck growth and expansion of footprint, and at the same time underestimating the need to invest in their own brand in their home market. So basically, we're looking at an over-investment in expansion and an under-investment in marketing in your own brand. And in the context of the UAE, which is a very competitive market, it's a premium market. It's a market where consumers are willing to pay top dollar for top quality and top branding and positioning. Marketing is absolutely important. Actually, in this kind of businesses, marketing is the capex of the business. It's not an opex. And your asset is your brand goodwill. So when we approach founders and we speak to them, our value proposition as an investor is to make this shift and push them to invest in the long-term sustainability of their brand, overinvest, not underinvest, because you need to be number one in your home market in order to be exportable to other markets. And we as EGF, what our mentality represents is we need to make sure that your brand will be around and will be top of mind in 15 years from now. I don't care, we don't care if you're going to grow 200% or 300% in the next month or the next year. You need to be around in 10 years from now, and we as investors, we can support you in that, and we will provide the funding and the capital for you to do that. So this is a message to all founders in this space, and we are very willing to speak to them and provide our perspective, and hopefully we can achieve a small shift in the market.
Thank you, Carlos. So I only have 3 minutes, right?
Yes, yes.
Right, because this is a great question, but it's also very complex to answer. And I am double hatting. I can talk as investor, at the same time I can talk as a ex-manager or executive. So with the operational history of about 30 years of experience. I've heard something which I agree with. I would say the first thing that we have to think, it is creating a brand. And creating a brand doesn't mean doing marketing. They are two different things. Branding and marketing, they are not the same thing. Many people don't understand it. Creating the brand, it means telling the story. We have to have a story behind anything. Because consumers, they're not interested in products, they are interested in stories. So you don't need to have a mission at all cost, a purpose at all cost. Many times I see brands, they have a fake purpose, a fake mission. You go to the product is off that mission, does not deliver whatever they want to say. So create a brand, it means you have to clarify what is the story behind it. What is your footprint? What is your positioning? What is your brand discriminator? What you are going to be, what you are not going to be. Obviously, it's an evolution. You don't start from the beginning writing down, and it's perfect. It's never like this. You learn on the go. I would say also to some founders, I don't know if there are some here, do not trust that much what you learn from market research. You have to do your research, fine, study your market, but do not trust blindly. Market research is a view on the past. It tells you what consumers used to do 6 months ago or more. But they will not know, because consumers do not know what is the innovation. They wait for you guys to show it. Then they test it and they like it and they go for it. So the first thing is to have a brand. You have to make sure that you have a story to tell. Second point, which obviously it is crucial, is to have a product that delivers on that story. And this means, I heard that this is actually a very open market, meaning that there is a lot of appetite for quality, for premiumness, which means pricing is not a big issue. If you try to do a startup in Ethiopia or in other basically low-income markets, obviously pricing will be one of your biggest concerns if you want to become large, because otherwise you will be a very small niche. Here it's not like this. You can become big and also high-priced, but the product has to deliver. And there has to be a stream of innovation that is really based on what the consumers need, what they want. So, but obviously it's not market research. In many cases they will tell you that. It is the human, it's not AI, it's the human creativity. It's somebody that comes with an idea, takes some risks, tests it in many ways. Many people do test through just market launch and then keep going on. The third element, and I will close because I could speak for hours about this topic, clearly it is visibility. You have to be there, because if you're there but you're not visible, and being visible, it means to have distribution, it is brick and mortar, it is digital. Choose also what is your proposition based on what your brand is. If your proposition, it is fast delivery and availability, then you have to be omni-channel. You cannot work one channel only, which means you have to be in quick commerce. You have to make sure that you are on fast delivery, because this is what consumers want in this market. And the single thing, I would say, obsession with visibility and distribution, because this is absolutely crucial. Once you have developed the other two elements, which is having a brand, doing marketing, and obviously having the right product and innovation.
Thank you, Salvatore. It was a minute extra, but it's okay.
Thanks. Very interesting perspectives. I would like to give, as a retailer and a marketeer by myself, I would like to give a perspective of what we look for in brands. So first and foremost is that, we are all talking clean label, organics, etc. in this market. While yes, the consumers here might not be that price sensitive, but at the same time, when the brands are coming on the shelf, they have to be priced right. And when I say right, it has to be an optimal level wherein a person does not doubt a quality. At the same time, he does not feel offended by the price. And we have a case study to prove it. I mean, in Sharjah, His Highness Sheikh Sultan, he launched a project of Maleha. Ektifa is a distributor, and they launched Maleha Farms, wherein they started with Maleha milk. Maleha milk, when we launched it, it is an A2 milk, pure milk, organic cows, locally made, locally fed, taken care of in nice farms, etc. It was priced right. It was 2 liters, 70.95. It not flew from the shelf, it just blasted from the shelves. And what we saw interestingly is that over time, it was not a short-term fad thing. Over time, we saw the category as a fresh milk category to double in size. And it has sustained so. So if you give a product which is priced right, a clean product, an organic product, it can work in this market. That is one. Second, from a consumer perspective, I think, yes, I agree with you. The market research does not work 100%. But at the same time, you need to understand the innate needs of the customer. You cannot rely on claim responses. Today, if you ask a customer, okay, what do you look for in a brand? Okay, price, promotion. But that is not something which is an innate need. To understand an innate need, you don't need to go back to data analytics. You need to get into a perspective, asking questions in a different way. So to give you an example, here in UAE, recent studies by Nielsen, they suggest that in food products, the first thing that people look for right now is the products made with natural ingredients. They don't care about organic and all that stuff. They care about whether it is made with natural ingredient. And second thing they care about, it has to be healthy, but at the same time, it has to be tasty. So if any brand can, cater to this requirement, KKL, that's a success story, why KKL is successful. So, but I have experienced, sometimes when you want to be too organic or too healthy, you tend to lose the taste aspect, which does not work in this market, may work in European markets. And we have experienced that when we get supplies from Europe, those products do not fly off the shelf, but when a brand understands the local nuances, it flies off the shelf. That's a second. Third, and I think it's very important, is that understand where customers are hungry, but they are not yet satisfied. So to give you research, but some of the categories are like juices, chips, biscuits in this part of the world are the categories wherein people are done with the monotony of the brands which are there. So they want more things, but it's not available. So there's an itch in the minds of customers that they want that, and it's not available. So knowing those itches, and then coming up with your brands, then coming up with your portfolio, at the same time doing all the testing. So you can test the products. Nowadays, the NPDs, the good old days when we had to have an NPD, it took a lot of time. Now it does not take that much time. So test the market. If you're coming to us as a retailer, you say, don't launch it across all your stores. Launch it in 1 or 2 big stores. If it works, then I will do a full marketing launch. If it does not work, I will not do it. So those are the nuances. I think from a retailer perspective, it makes a lot of sense for a new brand.
Thank you, Umesh, I think, and thank you, everyone. I think a lot of commonalities, but also some different points of view. And I want to double-click on some of the particulars, going deeper into some of the things each of you mentioned. So, Abeer, from a community engagement, you mentioned, purpose, community-driven. You yourself have 2, entities where you have a social drive behind them. When founders are approaching this in the UAE or any other markets, how should they go into community engagement and manage? Is it nice to have? Is it must have? What's the right balance in terms of engaging with the community, both on the consumer side and on the business side?
I think many brands understand the value of community engagement, but they've yet to unlock the best way to actively engage with their community in an authentic manner. So I'd say first thing is really understand your audience. What do they value? What do they care about? Where do they gather? Where do they hang out? Where do they spend their time? And see how your brand can add value to them. An example of that is Ali Al-Bastaki. He's one of the founders of Rack's Board Game Cafe in Sharjah. And last year he worked to build a board game that teaches entrepreneurial skills through play. And he decided to launch his board game at the Sharjah Entrepreneurship Festival because he knew his audience are exactly the same audience that will be there. The people coming to the festivals are spending full days, 2 days, over a weekend, learning about entrepreneurship, looking to meet other like-minded people. And what he did is instead of going down the retail route of selling his board game or having a pop-up of his cafe, he actually had pockets of experience across the festival grounds where people were able to come in and play the board game and connect based on that. They were then able to take that board game home. And one thing that was, I think, critical in his decision to launch it at the festival was the time, because the festival happened right before Ramadan. And as we know, Ramadan is a time where everyone gathers, communities gather, families gather, and they're looking for activities. So the same festival goers that were experiencing the board game at the event took it home and continued to play with their families over the month. He doubled down on that by collaborating with other brands that month as well. To integrate his board game into the different suhoor events, and all the events he was participating in or part of were always fully booked. So, key takeaways is really understanding your audience, being really familiar with the values, understanding where to find them, and then timing is critical.
Thank you, Abeer. Very, very insightful. Aryan, when you're looking for brands in the UAE, or brands are looking for you, what's the best way for them to fall under your radar?
Sure, Nader. I think it somewhat relates to the first point that Salvatore made as well. Is he spoke about having a compelling story. We typically refer to as a value proposition on our floors. So a brand to be spotted by us, it requires a compelling value proposition and a combination of effective, so effective communication of the value proposition and consumer feedback. So typically for us to form a conviction on a brand, we'll look for those two ingredients. If you talk about actually sourcing them, then we have a network of our advisors, friends, family, uncles, aunts, everyone gives us leads. Then we have strategic partnerships with the likes of Homegrown, etc. So there are several means for us to spot them.
Very cool. Maybe just a bit deeper, since we have a couple of more minutes. Like that leads to many choices to make. Yes. Which ones really give you the I shouldn't miss out on this?
So that then ties back to starting to look at brands from an investor's lens. And given our fund strategy, the scale of brands that we are trying to invest into, we screen out a lot of them with the criteria being the ones that are trying to target a broader market. The ones that have the potential to scale, and for us to be able to assess that is, we are typically going for brands or products that have already achieved a critical scale. But if you're delivering a healthy growth at that scale, along with a like-for-like or organic growth across your channels and products, it shouldn't be that you're a UAE brand expanding KSA and that's where your growth coming from. If you're growing in your core channel, product, category, etc., then that becomes a winner for us.
Oh, I love it. I think it gives a nice perspective of, yes, brand story, purpose, consumer, community engagement is good, but end of the day, you also need to play in the right market that gives you the volume in the sector. So thank you for that. Carlos, from EGF's perspective, what are the key factors when you look at when partnering with brands and seeing, how they can scale? And maybe I want to double down on the people aspect of it. Like, what are the people perspectives and factors you look at?
Yeah, thanks. I think it's a very relevant question, and I can also relate it a bit to my earlier statement around long-term sustainability, but also a bit of a need to shift the mentality out there. So obviously, when we look at founders and when we look at businesses, right, the founders are the driving force behind the business, and they have special talents that nobody else has, and this is why they brought their business to this point in time where it is ready now to scale up and go to the next stage. There are some very standard and common characteristics we see in these people. Besides talent and expertise, you have the gut feeling, and they are driven by the gut feeling, and they operate on that. And this is what is needed to get them to this point. So we like that and we want that. Now, the let's say, oxymoron here is that to move to the next stage, this has to change a bit. Because a business cannot be sustainable for the next 10, 15 years only on the gut feeling. At some point, you have to institutionalize, you have to set structures and checks and balances to make sure things are managed the right way, and to protect your own business and your own brand. And obviously, we as a sovereign capital investor, we have to protect our capital. So, and this is not about term sheets and legal arrangements. This is about building the rapport with the founder and looking at founders who have the maturity and the open mind to take advice from an active investor like EGF, and be open to change themselves and get direction in order to take their business to the next stage. And like inevitably, you have to stop relying only on your gut feeling. You cannot just take decisions on a daily or a monthly basis as you see the market developing. You have to go into a boardroom, discuss them, and convince your stakeholders and your shareholders, including obviously EGF, that this is the right course of action. And we will provide the advice to these founders for the right course of action based on our expertise and experience and network and market access. But it's very important that the founder is ready for that. And we also see some other patterns. For example, typically older founders of let's say, typically above 40 or above 50 are usually more mature and ready to take this advice. Maybe because of lessons of the past, whereas when it's somebody younger, usually they're a bit more overconfident, so to say, in their abilities, which is good. You need that, right? Yeah. You need that. But at some point, they need to be open to advice and discussion, and they need to look a bit beyond the next month and next year of growth. They have to look into the next 10 years, and this is what we as investors are trying to instill in their mentality. We want to make them we want to make them say, I want to be around in 10 years, and I want to be top of mind of my consumers in 10 years, and I want like people to remember my business for what it stands, not because it grew, 200% in 2025.
No, I love it. I think it's about, what I'm hearing is that it's about evolving. There is a magic and there's a gut feel that you can, and an energy that you rely on in the beginning, but you need to know that, okay, now I need to build a team, now I need to build processes, now I need to listen to see what got me here is not what's going to get me there. So I need to be open to evolving myself and the business.
And to that point, like one of the visions we have, and when we invest in companies, we are asking ourselves, can this company be a national champion in 10 years? It sounds a bit far-fetched, but we're asking this question. And we are investing in the company if the answer is yes. And to be a national champion, like you cannot be a national champion on gut feeling.
Yeah.
You will come, it will take you to a certain point, but then you need to change the modus operandi. And that's why taking advice, accepting governance and institutionalization is very important.
Thank you.
Also, you don't want to have one business that relies only on the founder.
Absolutely.
So you need to create bench strength, you need to create strong management.
Management, succession plan, stakeholders, absolutely. It cannot be like a one-man show anymore. Absolutely, absolutely.
So Salvatore, you have a lot of international experience, and UAE is a competitive market because there are a lot of brands that want to be in the UAE and by extension the GCC. We're seeing new trends where even small to medium international brands want to enter in the UAE. What would be your advice to distributors, founders, international sales team of those kind of brands?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I don't know if there is any of these people here.
There's one outside.
Probably one outside.
At least.
I would say the most, oh, good. The most common thing that normally, like international companies, and clearly I've done many of these things, like in my past, they just do copy-paste. They have a global marketing team that imposes the rules. Says, okay, this product now we have to roll it out. It's a global rollout, and you just do it because yes, there are consumers from the Emirates or all the different nationalities, but they keep telling you that they have more things in common, the differences versus consumers from the UK or from Argentina or from Vietnam. In reality, it's not always like this. So the first thing that I would say, you need to localize. You need to understand how to localize your proposition. Maybe not necessarily in the product. In many cases, you cannot, or it's not advisable to change the product if that product has been successful clearly as a structure, as a base. But you may want to go local in terms of flavors, in terms of your communication style, in terms of your service delivery. There are many things that you have to look at, but obviously you need to localize. Don't take your product as is and try to implement it in the UAE. Actually, I'm not sure if you know, but this is probably the most competitive market in the world in many categories. For sure, if you take the F&B, if you take actually the restaurant, there are about 20,000 restaurants in Dubai only, and I think there is everybody. All the major brands are here. So I have several friends like from Europe that they tell me, oh, let's open a new restaurant. So I have a great idea. I say, okay, please go there, welcome. You have to have a very deep pockets and a lot of patience and obviously a different product. Okay, second thing, if you want me to tell you 2-3 things, actually, you would need to do co-creation, local co-creation. So do not take a testimonial or a celebrity coming from somewhere and impose it here. Trying to work with local people, with influencers, trying to make actually content relevant to this audience. The third thing that I would say that maybe it is good also for distributors, it is do not see your distributor or your retailer as your evil that sucks margin from you. So it's a partner. And if you think of these partners, of these bodies as partners, obviously you start talking to them, you do also shared planning, you do things together. So trying to do joint planning with your main distributor and with your main retailers is crucial from my point of view. At the same time, I would say also to the distributors, and I know several, clearly choose very wisely these brands, because many brands, they are not going to last, especially if they come from medium, small companies. They have to have a proper support plan, and they have to have what I said at the very beginning, a narrative, a story that resonates with the local consumers. Clearly, I'm telling you very generic things. We should go and have separate meetings and go into more details, which I can definitely do it. But clearly, that is what I think is crucial if you want to try to move from global to local with some degree of success.
Thank you, Salvatore. Umesh, you get to face a lot of those decisions at Sharjah Co-op side, right? And you have to pick because there's limited shelf space, warehouse space, consumer, visibility. How do you make those decisions? And how do you know this brand is one that can eventually garner, even if it's small today, can garner some loyalty? How do you look at this from a retailer lens?
Yeah, that's like a day-to-day job, but I will start from the basics and then I will go to more advanced kind of a structuring. So the basic is that, like today we have got close to 100,000 SKUs, right? So our categories are almost full, and all my fellow panel members are helping more brands to come into the market. So it cannot go beyond that, right? But what we try to do is we try to optimize. And when we say optimization, the category optimization is the first thing which we try to do. So whenever a new brand comes in with their portfolio, product, etc., what we try to do is the good old thing, look at my category performance, wherein I map the matrices of value, mainstream, premium, and I look at the past growth. If there is a gap somewhere in this particular matrix, and in that particular gap nearby I'm seeing the growth happening recently, I would choose that particular brand. As simple as that. So if there's a gap between mainstream and premium, so a premium economy kind of a space, and I see the nearby brands are the ones which are really taking the category ahead, for me the category growth matters first. So I will choose that brand. That's a traditional way, nicer way to do it. Second thing which becomes very important is to look at the customer relevance. So customers in UAE, I would say, I don't have data, but they are really, really flirtatious. They would try 10 different brands and then try to finalize one brand, and then if it matches their vibe, they will try to stick to it. So when you're dealing with such kind of a customer who is label literate, he knows how to read the labels. At the same time, he is value conscious. And over time, in the last 1-2 years, they are becoming health curious. That means they want to eat healthy stuff. So they won't pick up brands when they're reading a label wherein they cannot pronounce the ingredients. So they want something which is simple yet effective, does the trick. It's the same old category which they have been using, but at the same time it becomes simpler for them to adjust into their life. So customer relevance becomes very important, knowing your customers, how they're evolving. And third, I would say, which has become our core competence, and I agree with Abeer also to a certain aspect, that community-focused brand involvement is very important. Like for us, if we have a store in Al Dhaid, which is a central region of Sharjah, we would invite farmers there, local businesses there, to come and sell in our stores. We will take away the listing fee, we will take away all kinds of fees, and we would be the one who will promote it on our socials, etc. Because we want the community to feel that we are there and them to grow as brands as well. We are not a venture capitalist, etc., but we are trying to give them a space to grow. Similarly, if we are in a Khorfakan and there are a lot of UAE nationals who want to start their own businesses, they have something in mind, why don't give them, we have actually in Khorfakan store a space wherein all the small businesses, they can come and put their stores, test it, and if it sells and people encourage it. So knowing that community needs pertaining to that and keep on, how you can grow that small brand into a big brand, helping them in that journey has become very important. So,
Thank you, Umesh. Very insightful. I think you're going to get approached by more brands thanks to all the investment and support coming from there. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It was very insightful. And as Salvatore mentioned, I think we can spend probably another couple of hours talking about this. So feel free to reach out. Time is up. So unfortunately, no time for questions. But the panelists will be there. If anyone has any questions, we'll be happy to chat more. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.